And I am recording. Okay, so thank you very much for taking the time out to sit down and chat with me. I suppose the first question is why are we here? What's the project you've been working on for either person?
Sure. So we're talking about Gay Card, which is a musical that Ryan and I started working on back in 2013, I think it was, at the Graduate Musical Theater Writing Program at NYU. And it's essentially about a college freshman who was sort of a loser in high school, but he's recently come out of the closet, and he's come to college thinking that his life is going to be awesome. But he gets there, and all of his fellow classmates deem him not awesome enough to be gay. So he embarks on a quest to sort of reclaim his gay card and figure out where he belongs in the gay community, and along the ways learns some lessons about belonging and whether growing up means you really grow out of your insecurities. Yeah, that's sort of it.
So what was your respective involvement? So what was your role within the project?
Sure, Ryan, you want to go first?
Yeah, well, first of all, my name is Ryan Carell, by the way. And I'm the composer, so I wrote all of the music for the show.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Jonathan Keebler. I wrote book and lyrics for the show. Yeah.
So how did the idea start? Where did it come from? I suppose, Jonathan, that'll be easier for you to answer that one then.
Sure. Ryan might be able to add a little bit to it. So as part of the Graduate Musical Theater Writing Program at NYU, we basically it's this 2-year program where you sort of speed date all your classmates in your first year, and then you get paired with a partner in your second year to write your thesis musical. So Ryan and I got paired together, and we basically had 3 months to come up with pitches for 2 different shows that we then presented to the faculty to decide what we were going to write in our in the year proper. And won't go into what the other show was, but with this show, we knew we wanted to write an original musical about the college experience. We'd sort of been hammering away at another show, and it just wasn't going anywhere. And basically, we had like a week left to submit what this project was even going to be to our advisor. And with a week left to go, I sat Ryan down at a cafe and I said, what if we scrapped everything we've been doing right now and wrote this new show called Gay Card? And I gave him the title, and Ryan was hooked sort of immediately. And it unlocked this whole world of possibilities about what the show could be. And it really started
literally just like dropped my burger and was like, that's the show.
It started with something really stupid, which was when I was in college, and I can tell this story because the girl involved is one of my best friends and she knows that I tell it. But I got really annoyed with her while I was in college because she had this habit of quote unquote taking away people's gay cards whenever any of the new gay kids coming in sort of didn't know something that was, a stereotypically gay person was supposed to know. And she sort of made a joke about all this, and we made it like an elaborate thing to like track who still had their gay card and who lost it and who was giving it back. And it was this whole thing. And I always found it fun, but also like it kind of pissed me off a little bit too. So it was one of those like beautiful things that was both funny, but also like based in like a kind of core frustration that I think makes for really good musical comedies. So we sort of just kind of took that and elaborated a whole show around it.
I should say that we both have, I've never met this person, but I think a lot of gay men or gay people, LGBTQ plus people in general, have similar experiences of not fitting the stereotype or trying to figure out, like, am I supposed to know all of these cultural references? Am I supposed to dress this way? Am I supposed to act this way? And I don't want to, or I don't get it. I think that's really common. And so I think it speaks to a lot of people.
I think that's reflected within the music in the show, because one of the first songs is very, about taking away the gay card. Oh, you haven't listened to you don't know Lady Gaga, you don't do this. And then obviously by the end of the show, then we've gone on a tour of all the different, groups and representation that widens it. So I thought that was, from my perspective, that's incredible that the story's been told obviously through the songs as well. Talking about music, I've got to say that Fake ID / Look at Me is one of my favorite songs I've ever listened to.
Oh my God.
The way that it represents, your stereotypical gay bars is incredible. So within the story, he kind of finds, self-acceptance and eventually gains back his gay card. And obviously promoting that sort of self-love is really important. So where's the show grown since you released the soundtrack? Has it grown? What's the plans at the moment? And what's planned in the future? What's its journey at this point?
Sure. Yeah, the album has really helped in terms of getting the show out into the world and finding maybe a little bit of a fan base. I'm not really sure, but that's been really cool to watch. And it's led to a few different licensing agreements with different theaters. First we did a workshop production at the College of Charleston. I want to say that was 2016, which was really great because that was the first time that we were ever actually able to see the show performed by actual college students, not professional New York actors, but actual college students for an audience of college students. It was just magical, like, to watch it work that way. And since then, a few other places, the North Raleigh Arts and Creative Theater in Raleigh, North Carolina, a couple years ago, did a really wonderful production. And then currently, even during COVID, there are a couple going on. There's a student at the University of Illinois who, in my home state, who is working on a project that I think will involve a lot of video because of COVID and everything. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out. And then another one in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, where this group of college students is actually translating the entire show into Portuguese and putting together, I think, first a concert version and then hopefully a full production once COVID gets under control. But it's been really cool to watch people just take the show and make it their own and join this, like, little gay family that we've made on the show.
So you talked about it growing, but where can people stay up to date? How can they follow the musical? Is there your website and things like that?
I missed some of that.
Yeah, no, it's just how people can follow the musical. Right. So at the moment, there is a website called gaycardmusical.com, which is going to be the main place you can find information about it. We also have a Facebook page for it, for Gay Card Musical, and we I think we'll eventually be starting an Instagram page for it to sort of so look out for that in the future. But right now, those are the two main places you can find information about it.
So you talked a little about workshopping the show. What was that process like? How did that go? How was it received?
Sure.
Do you want to? I don't know which workshop you want to talk about.
Oh yeah, I can. Well, I can check. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say you There's one of the earlier ones you said about in a National Theatre, one of the big theatres or something. Sorry,
And sorry, no, there was a student workshop in College of Charleston. So the show's actually been through like we've skipped a few steps. So before the College of Charleston, the show like went through a few different iterations. At NYU, we basically had a 90-minute presentation of the show, and the show runs about 2 hours 15 minutes currently. And that 90-minute presentation was mostly the first act, and then like a very, very condensed version of the second act in like 15-20 minutes. That was basically like hit all the like big solos that are in the second act and very little book in between. So after we did, and we always knew we wanted to like make a full act show. After we did that, we had the chance to sort of expand the show to the full act the following summer with a program called Agile Formations, and that let us sort of really flesh out that second act. The show there's certain shapes the show has taken that have remained consistent. The notion of getting your gay card, and the notion of like the main character sort of going through all of these various groups and sort of trying them out. But there were a few things that like were always a bit up in the air until we went through that summer workshop and then subsequent rewrites that led up to the Charleston workshop. Those were largely focused around our main character's best friend, whose name is Melanie. We felt like the show was really centered around this notion of sort of growing up and finding your place in the world. So centering it around this relationship between these two high school best friends who sort of grow into their own people in college, and what that does for their friendship became a core sort of emotional, an important emotional thing in the show. But Melanie is this sort of she didn't sort of fit the mold of the show always necessarily. She was a straight character in a gay show. Her journey was quite different. So we went through a number of iterations of trying to figure out, what the best role for her to have in the show was. And sort of as we changed that, things around that in the show changed. So that was sort of the last big thing to lock itself in. And I would say, most of our efforts, besides replacing a few songs that like were basically the same moment, but we just did a better song for that moment. Besides doing that, the main story thing that changed was their relationship and what her deal was.
We talked about it a little bit at the beginning, but it's a very relatable. Like we talked about the story about people taking away gay cards or going to a college or union and trying to find themselves. So it's obviously really relatable to not just members of the LGBT community, but wider as well. So what's kind of next for the show? What is there plans for it to keep on growing?
I mean, we have those two productions that are sort of currently in flux right now, but really at this point the show's open for licensing. If people are interested in contacting us and licensing their own production, we would love for that to happen. But we are also working on other projects as well. Jonathan, you look like you have something to say.
I think that's fair. I think we continue to look for opportunities for the show to be presented, and we'd love for one day to get something sort of big and shiny, but the reality is that for us, we also have to create new things. So and the good thing about the show is that it's sort of reached a point now where it has kind of taken on a life of its own. So I imagine it will not be the last, the last you're hearing of productions of it down the line.
Mm. So what advice would you have for, young theatre creatives, specifically right now, but also on the journey of creating their own stuff, their own pieces?
It's a good question.
I think you've talked about how the iterations and how you've been constantly changing and editing and that sort of thing. And obviously that's really important for people to remember. They're not going to come into it with a finished piece. It's going to change more and more.
Yeah, I think yeah, I mean, I think you make a very good point. I think I would say listen is the biggest thing I could say. Listen to other people. That doesn't mean, compromise your vision or any of that, but that especially when you're starting out, don't assume people are on your side and trying to help you and take it in. But I would also just say listen to what's going on in the world, and listen to what you're not hearing. I think for Ryan and I, a lot of what we write comes from creating the things that we wish existed in the world. I think that's a lot of times where the creative impulse comes from. So, rather than trying to go out and make, rather than trying to go out and copy something, it's to me, it's all about going out and saying, oh, I wish I had this, because this show for us really started from, two gay kids who loved to watch, 90s and early 2000s coming of age movies and never saw ourselves in those stories. And the show really became our way of creating that thing that we wish we had as teenagers. And so I would say, listen for what's missing in the world, in the world today.
Okay, that's all my questions. So again, thank you very much. And I will put all the links to the website and your social media in the description so people can just swipe down and give it a click. But yes, thank you very much. And I look forward to see how the show continues to grow. Speak to you all soon. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you
Thanks
very
for having
much.
us.
Thank you. Bye.